With week number 1 of the NFL now in the books, we can officially say the 2022 football season is underway. We previously only offered 30-day NFL packages and 30-day college football packages, but because you asked, we have now added a 30-day NFL and college football combo. If you regularly buy the same handicapper week by week, not only will you save money, but more importantly, you will receive the selections immediately once they are released, allowing you to lock in the best available line and beat the line moves. While a 30-day NFL or college football package sells for $149 each, we want to make a splash for the first week of this combo package. Through Sunday, September 18th, get the NFL and college football combo for only $199. Yes, that's 30 days of NFL and 30 days of college football for under $100 per sport. This special is available at both WagerTalk and Sports Memo, allowing you to bet football right alongside your favorite handicapper for the next 30 days for only $6.63 per day.
Hey guys, welcome in and a very happy, the 15th now of September. We're right in the middle. That means it is week 3 of the college football season. Kind of crazy here, but hey, plenty of games on board here today. Certainly some interesting ones this weekend, and 3 of the very best here to break down a few of them as we welcome in Drew Martin in the house, as is Adam Trigger, and of course, Steve, I'm fading your public ass Merril, 2Rs, 1L, joining us here. Always a pleasure, gentlemen, on a Thursday. And now it's starting to get good, right? Some of these lines we've seen adjust all week here. Drew, now it's kind of time to kind of hone it in and narrow it down on a pretty big slate here. What do you got locked and loaded for us over at WagerTalk.com?
Sure, Joe. Always good being on with you, man. We got a best bet tonight in the Thursday night NFL. We got a few games going Friday, Saturday in college football. So football season is upon us of a profitable weekend, man, and looking to repeat last year's success. So excited to break down these games with you, and let's cash some winners, buddy.
Love it. Let us do it. Can't wait to hear who he's going to play in the Auburn game. I'll give you 3 guesses, Trig. All right, so let's let's talk here, Trig. You got still a lot going on. Baseball, KBO continuing to dominate. And, of course, college football is upon us. You've been circling around a few games most of the week. I see you talking about. What do you got locked and loaded over at WagerTalk.com?
Yeah, Joe, I mean, listen, I've always been someone that probably bets later. It's just my style, but it works for me, and it worked last week. And in the NFL, in football across the board, I went 6-1, 3-0 in the NFL, 3-1 in college football. I've had a great baseball season so far in MLB and KBO, so we've got both of those on a daily basis. I have a special up for NFL and college football. The rest of the season, you get $200 off. I just posted my first football play for the weekend earlier today. I posted that one for free, so you can actually get that on my page now. I anticipate adding, anywhere between, I would say 6 to 8 more. Probably usually have about 8 plays in total each weekend, right around there. And hopefully we'll replicate what we did last weekend, which was an awesome week of football. But yeah, there's a bunch of games on my radar. We're going to talk about a couple of them on the show, and hopefully it's another good weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Here, getting fun here. Merril starting to get a feel for some of these teams, but who knows? They could all take a hard left here any moment because welcome to college football, my man. But you don't care. You just continue to cash tickets for your clients, man. It's been a hell of a start to the football season for you. What are you following it up with this week?
Yeah, we started the first Saturday in college football with a 3-0 sweep, and then came back this past weekend with the first Sunday and Monday in the NFL, did even better, a 5-0 sweep on Sunday and Monday pro football for week 1. Also 3 straight baseball winners the last 3 days on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. That's an 8-0 all sports run now as we head into Thursday. And a very special offer right now at WagerTalk.com. No promo code needed. Go to my page right now. You can get a full 30 days of college and pro football for just $199. That's less than $100 for the NFL and college each. Get a full month of both for just $199. No promo code needed. Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com. And as you hinted at the top of the show when he had two different profanities within the first 30 seconds. I had the over, by the way, so I cashed in big. There's some inside information there. New Jersey was a little surly today. But, look, we will have the college football video. You mentioned the NFL Fade the Public video. That'll be up Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening. Don't forget about the college football top 25 preview, though, which will be up Friday night. And this is actually kind of the quiet week. There's actually only two true head-to-head top 25. So what I'm going to do is throw in a couple bonus games that just a bit outside from the top 25 rankings. So check that out this weekend. There is content here at WagerTalk TV.
Yeah, absolutely. And opportunities present themselves each and every week during the college football season, gentlemen. And maybe, just maybe, the opportunities are in one of these three games we're going to break down. And we are going to start, guys. This is interesting, huh? How about Michigan State heading on the road to take on Washington? And Washington, huh? -3.5 is what we're looking at. 56.5 is that opening total. Listen, Mel Tucker State, neither of these two teams have actually, shall we say, played anybody. That's the term I'm looking for. Yep. But they've won. They've handled business. Washington, a home favorite of more than a field goal here. Like the quarterback, sounds familiar to those that might have followed the Big Ten here, Drew. So what do you think here? Washington, Michigan State. Who walks away undefeated still?
Sure, Joe. Yeah, good intro there. I mean, Michael Penix Jr., the quarterback you're talking about, the markets have loved him. Look, he's an athletic lefty, out there making plays. And sure enough, I say the markets have loved him because when you look at where this spread was over the summer, you know, you can bet into look-ahead lines. It was actually Michigan State as about a field goal favorite. So we've seen a flip favorite here, almost of a touchdown. I think it kind of points towards Michael Penix Jr. fitting into this offense. You also talked about, you know, schedule-wise. This is going to be a good barometer game. And I say that because, look, they're both 2-0 straight up. They're both 2-0 against the spread. The only problem is they both played an FCS and a MAC team, which, you know, I love MACtion, but the fact is it is the weakest in terms of talent conference in FBS football. So not a whole lot to go off of in terms of where these teams power rank. I think it's actually too much of a move here, Joe. I really do. I think the underdog at +3.5 was worth a look, but actually I want to give a shout out to the legendary Mark Lawrence in his newsletter. He did point out something here. Michigan State's 0-8 against the spread, their last 8 games versus the Pac-12. I think there might be something there, you know, whether it be the travel spot all the way out west. I usually would favor the Big Ten over the Pac-12, but that number against the spread has kept me off of this. However, if you made me play this, I'd be on the Spartans, Joe.
All right, looking at Sparties for a lean here, and how about you, Trig? What do you think? It's an interesting matchup. Washington 4-8 a year ago. Apparently a win against Portland State, and they should be a favorite of more than a field goal against the Big Ten. What do you think?
Well, you know, I think the number keeps me off here. Ultimately, I lean Washington. I'll start with what Drew kind of just said. They really have struggled against the Pac-12, and it's a tough spot for Michigan State, in my opinion. You know, Michael Penix Jr., he was down last year, Joe, from what he was previously, and now he reunites with his former coach, who's now the head coach at Washington, Kalen DeBoer, and it looks like it's helped so far. You know, Washington hasn't played anyone yet, so we'll see what he can do against stiffer competition, but Michigan State was dead last in the Big Ten last year in pass coverage, essentially, allowing 337 passing yards per game. So, you know, I don't love laying the points, but the way I lean here is Washington. I think, and I come back to that stat, man. Michigan State has been awful against these Pac-12 teams, and I see some edges here for Washington, enough to lean their way.
So it's interesting, Merril, because here we are, week 3. Overreactions still a big part of the handicap, and Drew mentioned it. I mean, nobody has Washington as a 3.5-point favorite a couple of weeks ago, right? I mean, it just doesn't happen. And yet, we've got a much more stable program as of late in Michigan State they're catching points here now and I think they're on the right track finally in Washington, but this hasn't been a wealth of consistency, this program. So what do you do here? Are you siding with the Big Ten, or you think the Pac-12's got an edge here?
I'll tell you what I'm going to do, Joe. I'm actually going to fade the public in this game. I know we do that with the NFL video, but this is a public dog this week, and I think you can make a case there's a sharp square divide in this game. And if the reason, of course, is because, as the other guy said, Washington opened as about a 1-point favorite. By the way, my power ratings make the line 1, so I thought that was spot on. The public consensus is on the dog. That's always a red flag, and the line has actually gone higher to 3.5, crossing that key number. So sharp money is definitely on Washington in this game. I think the public is going to be on Michigan State, so that does catch my attention. Now, as you said, though, I'm not sure I want to give up that kind of line value here and back Washington. First-year head coach, they have not stepped up in class yet. I do think, as Drew mentioned, this travel situation is not a good one for Michigan State. I like this Spartans team. I actually had a strong best bet on them last Saturday for my clients at WagerTalk.com, an easy 52-0 blowout winner of Akron. But they are stepping up in class now on the road for the first time. Line's gotten a little pricey, but I'm going to lean Washington, take a little bit of a contrarian view. I definitely like it if it gets back down to -3 or less. And to be honest, we might see some threes this weekend because, once again, the sharp money has pushed it from 1 to 3.5. If you like Michigan State, I'd jump in now. If you like Washington, which is the way I'd lean, I would wait until Saturdays. I think the public could bring this back down to a field goal or less.
Yeah, listen, Michael Penix Jr., if anybody knows him, it's the Michigan State team there. He always played well against, the Kent State and Portland States of the world. Let's see how he does stepping up against the Big Ten out west in Washington, guys. That is going to be a Saturday afternoon game, and we're going to move on here to another pretty interesting game here. Maryland, talk about a team beating the crap out of absolutely nobody. -2.5 here, going against SMU. 74. It's a big number as the opening total there. So what do you think? Are you a believer in Tua's younger brother here at Maryland? What do you think, Trig? Are you buying the Terps?
It's not that I guess it's two-part question. One, I do believe in him. I mean, he's a solid player, and I think when I look at this game, I mean, I don't know if I'll get to the window with an over 74, but we've kind of talked about it on this show before, how sometimes especially in college football, they can't make the number high enough, right? Like some of these totals get up there, and they're just like, and you're taking it, it's going to be a bad number, and there's still 95 points in the game. And it's like, my first sort of inkling here when I look at, these two teams, how they come into this game and how this game sets up, is that we're going to see points. So I at least have to lean toward the over. Certainly wouldn't take it under there. But it's obviously a big number. As far as the side is concerned, I don't know if I really feel like Maryland's done enough for me at this point to warrant being a favorite. I think both of these teams are taking a step up, obviously, from what they've seen so far this year, right? We had SMU play North Texas and Lamar. That's a little bit better, in my opinion, than, let's say, Maryland, who played Buffalo and Charlotte. So, step up for both teams. I actually think Maryland's going to struggle with Tanner Mordecai here. That is by far a step up from what they have seen from quarterback play from either of their first two opponents. So, I just look at the market, look how people are betting this game. It seems like a lot of people are just taking the Maryland money line, which I don't agree with. If I was going to bet this game, I'd probably just take the points, because I do think it's kind of a coin flip, and I'd prefer to have the points. And I do think there's going to be points, Joe. So I'd lean toward the over as well.
All right, leaning towards the over. I swore off Maryland after week 1, and never again. Was reminded why I can't stand watching Maryland games, too. Steve Merril, you worried about? It's an interesting spot here because SMU, the Mustangs, got a pretty interesting game next week against, their former coach, Sonny Dykes, now at TCU. So you worried maybe, just maybe, SMU might be looking just a little bit ahead after this Maryland game?
Yeah, I mean, definitely a look-ahead spot here, perhaps. And I think it's a weird scheduling spot also, going to Maryland. It's not a normal trip for SMU. So I do think in situations like this, you can make a case that home field is worth a little bit more than average. And I actually rate Maryland as the better overall team, yet the line is only 2.5. You give them probably at least 3 for home field. And By the way, if you're having trouble finding this on the WagerTalk live odds screen, it's game number 183, 184. They have Southern Methodist against Maryland. They've gotten very proper this year with the team names. I believe they had Texas Christian the other week instead of TCU, so that might confuse some of our new bettors out there. But this is SMU, Southern Methodist. I think the line is too short. My power ratings actually make it 6.5, so I'm going to side towards Maryland. And as Adam said, I don't think it makes any sense to play the money line, minus 145. You're going to play Maryland, play the minus 2.5. 3 is the key number. So as long as this stays 2.5, I like the Terps in this one. I think there's some line value, and I think you can make a case that the scheduling situation also favors Maryland.
All right, like in the Terps in this one. How about it, Drew? I will say this. I mean, certainly you look at it, and the first thing you think is probably points, and more points. Maryland, I believe, on quite the streak. 8 of their last 9 non-conference, they've scored 30 or more. But SMU, 4 of their last 5 on the road, have gone under. So what gives here? What do you think in this matchup?
Interesting stat there, Joe. Wonder if that does carry over. I mean, it is a new kind of regime here with Rhett Lashley. He's a first-time head coach, which a lot of the time, Joe, I actually don't look to bet on just because, you know, even though you were a successful offensive coordinator, you haven't really led the troops, and going on the road here could be a tough one. They did go on the road earlier against North Texas, which, by the way, I lost on. I bet the Mean Green. But keep in mind, they just got on a bus. It was only like, you know, an hour away for SMU travel. This is going to be the first time, you know, getting on a plane, going up to ACC territory, facing the Maryland Terps. You brought up the scheduling here, Joe. I mean, Maryland played Buffalo and Charlotte. That might be the easiest FBS schedule possible here. I mean, Charlotte, it's unfortunate what the 49ers have done under Will Healy. I thought they were going to be good. They're probably one of the worst D1 programs out there. So not a lot to go off of Maryland. I do think North Texas is the best team that either team has faced, and SMU did handle them pretty handily. So sidewise, I guess I would agree here with Trig. Maybe put the points in my pocket. I think it's a kind of a coin flip type game. But even more so, Joe, we've seen this total go 69 up to 74 there. I think it's with good reason. 5 points to the over. I wouldn't be surprised if we go even higher here. I think both of these two teams' offenses are the superior unit. We've seen both of these coaches look to kind of go in terms of scoring prowess, you know, pedal to the metal here. Sometimes these totals, they really can't get high enough. I go up and over, gave it out as the best bet on the Hustle Show podcast, 6 p.m. on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. That is the Hustle. That was my best bet, Joe. Nice. Repeat it here, guys. SMU Maryland over, Joe. This is one I really like on the card.
All right, the points, and more points. Don't expect defense here.
Joe,
Should be a good one. Good, go.
Real quick. I just want to say that, yeah, Steve's right. Like, if you're going to take Maryland, don't lay minus 145 or minus 150. I was just referencing the odds board, but people are doing that. You shouldn't lay, I mean, unless you're going to play it smaller, don't just lay the money line there. You're probably better off just laying the 2.5, paying minus 110. And then as far as what Drew was saying, like, I've noticed with these totals in like the 70s, a lot of times like they can't make it higher, but it's like, I agree. I just wanted to say I agree with him. I said it at the beginning. Probably, I think you can get 80 plus here without any issue.
All right, 80
yeah.
It is. I love it. All right, well, at least it'll be exciting. But if you want to lay $140 on Maryland, God bless you. You got
yeah.
Woo, good. Make sure there's alcohol around. All right, we'll move on to game number 3 here. We'll break down and look at this. A little battle of Texas coming on with UTSA, the Roadrunners, taking on the Longhorns. 12.5 with that total at 61. 8 o'clock, guys. That'll be Eastern time, that kickoff on Saturday night. And, well, 2 questions, Merril. A, who the hell's playing quarterback for Texas? And B, how much faith do you have in Sarkisian rallying the troops on what has to be an absolutely emotional letdown after that game against Alabama?
Yeah, I didn't realize we were going to have a bowl game on September 15th, but I'm officially making this the letdown bowl because You've got UTSA coming off back-to-back overtime games to start their season, and then you've got Texas, of course, coming off the unbelievably tough loss to Alabama, the best team in the nation, most likely. So hard to trust either team here. Although, I mean, the Roadrunners beep. You know, you do think UTSA will probably get up to play this game against Big Brother Texas. But the overtime I was referencing, and Adam and I both talked about the game last week. We both said how it was a tough spot for UTSA because they were coming off the triple OT loss against Houston. They had to go up and play West Point on the road, and it looked like it was going to work out. Army was a 2.5-point dog, lost by 3 in overtime. So really bad beat there, tough loss in that game. But Texas San Antonio has now played, 4 overtime sessions, the first 2 games of the season, and now playing a very physical Texas opponent. With that said, though, I do not trust Texas in this spot. First off, my power ratings make the game 20. Normally in a situation, I'd be jumping all over Texas, getting almost a touchdown in line value because this actually more than a touchdown in line value. It opened 14. It's now down to 12.5. But I just don't trust Texas, and that's why this line is shorter. And let's look at what happened last year. First year for Sarkisian as head coach at Texas. They got off to a 4-1 start. And then if you recall, they lost the game against Oklahoma 55-48, a real back-and-forth high-scoring rival. That's a tough loss, right? That was the first of 6 straight losses, 0-6 straight up in ATS starting with that game. And they didn't win until the season finale against Kansas State. So if history repeats itself, I think you have to be very careful with Texas here. The line value favors Texas, but I just don't trust them in a possible letdown spot.
Dry, that game last week was mind-blowing with Army and UTSA. The one thing we did take away is that, A, apparently Army throws the ball. I had no idea. But, B, that secondary of UTSA sucks. But the problem is we're looking at a third or fourth-string QB for Texas trying to take advantage of it. Can they? Can't they? It's such a I just don't know who's going to be playing quarterback and if we can trust them. How do you approach this game?
Sure, Joe. I mean, you brought up alcohol on the lead-in, and I think it's appropriate to bring up Steve Sarkisian and his quarterback situation. He's been known to throw him back. He might have been throwing him back this week. Quinn Ewers out, 4 to 6 weeks here, so we'll see what the Longhorns do. Also, I mean, you got Alabama on the ropes, and you let them off. That's a tough one to come back on. And Steve Sarkisian, actually, in my opinion, isn't the best head coach in this game. We got Jeff Traylor here for UTSA, former Texas High School Coach of the Year. I like these guys with this profile. A very good high school coach stepping up here with UTSA and doing a great job. Keep in mind, UTSA, the Roadrunners, they're 20-8 under Jeff Traylor, and they've only had 2 losses by more than 2 touchdowns. Of course, seeing this spread at 14, now down to 12.5, Joe, I agree with this move. I think the dog is barking. Watch out here. This spot for Texas is dangerous. Plus 12.5 with UTSA. I have it in my pocket. Also, sprinkle some here, guys. Plus 385. Risk 100 to win 385. UTSA might go into Austin, Texas, and come out outright here, Joe. I like UTSA.
Little brother, big brother here. What do you think, Trig? We know who's going to be up for this. It's all about motivation, and what are they going to have in the tank? Maybe look UTSA first half, and eventually the talent takes over second half, or vice versa. How do you look at it?
Well, Joe, I guess it's going to come down to Texas's depth here, right? Like that, if sometimes with these big teams, like if Texas has guys that can come in and play in place of some of the guys they're missing, maybe they'll run away with this. But I see that being the less likely result. And I'll start with what Drew kind of pointed out. Like, you let Alabama off the hook, and then Ewers is out for a month or however long he's going to be out for. That's just a horrible turn of events for Texas, who was probably sitting there thinking that they had a really good chance to beat Alabama last week. So right there, just off of that, I got to go against Texas. There's no way I'm going to back them in this game. And then, Texas San Antonio last week was a team I was considering playing against. Didn't get to the window with it, but they impressed me. I really thought that was a tough spot for them to go up to Army, and they got it done. It was an overtime win. So for me, they're going to get some momentum out of that, because I don't think that was an easy sort of spot or result. Like that was impressive to me, that they were able to go up to New York and get the win coming off the Houston game. So I think they have all sorts of momentum. We talked about that game last week a couple times on WagerTalk TV, how the reason they might be a play against last week was because this one was circled. Guys, there's absolutely no question. Jeff Traylor all summer probably a big reason he got some of these guys to come to this school was for this game. So the UTSA is going to be up for it here. Frank Harris can make plays against anyone. I'm with Drew. I agree. I think Texas San Antonio not only is the play, but I think they got a chance to win it outright as well.
All right, we got sprinkling all over the place here in this game with little brother taking on the big brother. Should be a fun one. Come this weekend, Texas and UTSA. All right, plenty of opportunities and directions to be able to go here this weekend in college football. It is time to narrow it down and see which game here these guys may be leaning towards a little bit more than the rest. So, Drew, kick us off here, my man. Which game here did you circle that you're leaning towards a little bit more?
Joe, well, SMU Maryland over 73.5 of the 3 games I bet personally. That's the most I bet on. That was the best bet on the hustle. So I don't want to repeat it here. Another one I bet, Joe. I like this one a lot, though. We just talked about it, man. You teed it up there. UTSA, the Roadrunners, plus 12.5. I think they got the better coach, former high school coach of the year there in the state of Texas. They're 20-8 under Jeff Traylor. I think he has the troops ready to go. Plus 385 on the money line. Don't be surprised if UTSA goes into Austin, wins outright against the Longhorns. Little brother, big brother. I think UTSA, the side here, plus 12.5, Joe.
Boom, there it is. It is certainly working in their favor, guys. What do you think? Trig, which one of these might you be leaning towards here this weekend?
Well, Joe, I just said I agreed with Drew, and I was going to use that for my best bet for the show, but we've talked about it. I agree with him, but I'm going to just go to a different game so we have some variety here. I'll go off the games we talked about to UTEP, New Mexico. I've talked about UTEP a couple times since the beginning of the season. I like this UTEP team, and they're 0-3 against the spread. But I think that's a little bit deceiving, guys. You know, they had a big game, arguably the biggest game of week 0 in terms of, you know, one of the biggest at least, with the fact that it was a conference game. They lose in a deceiving final to North Texas in a game that they outgained the Mean Green. They then come out and have to play Oklahoma. They fail to cover by a half a point, and they throw an interception, you know, on the 20-yard line, 1st and 10 with like 30 seconds left. They could have easily backdoored that spread. Last week, they lead 17-0 at halftime against New Mexico State. Kind of going to cruise control in the second half, but still a game that, even with New Mexico State having the ball late there, I never thought was in real jeopardy for them. So, you know, I think they're a little bit better than the results maybe show so far. And, guys, New Mexico, this team they've been bad for years. Of course, last week they have to play Boise State, an emotional game at home where they didn't move the ball at all. 8 first downs and really 2 big plays, giving us a deceiving final score in that game because they scored 14 points on essentially 2 plays. They did nothing offensively the rest of the game. And they got to go to LSU next week, which, you know, yeah, I think that is a little bit of a distraction as it pertains to this game, knowing that they've got to go to Baton Rouge next week. You know, New Mexico in their last 41 games, 13-28 against the spread. UTEP, in my opinion, is just better than the market is pricing them at this point. This should have been on the other side of the field goal. The fact that it's 2.5, I would lay the 2.5 with the UTEP Miners. I expect them to leave Albuquerque with a win and cover the small number as well.
All right, our producer Robert jumping up and down there behind the scenes, liking that pick with UTEP because we know his ass ain't betting Houston, but that's a different story. Talk to me here. Talk to me, Merril. You got a couple of different ways to look here. Are you going to pick one of these 3 games? You're going to go off the board? What do you got? And remind the folks, too, about your videos and what you got locked and loaded for us.
Yeah, I'm actually going to give everybody a sneak peek right now, a day in advance on that college football top 25 video, because one of the games I will be talking about in that video is Miami of Florida at Texas A&M. Of course, that'll be posted on Friday night on WagerTalk TV into Saturday. I look at the biggest top 25 head-to-head matchups. I give you my personal power ratings, also leans and analysis where I see there's advantages. And then, of course, on Saturday, keep an eye out for that NFL Fade the Public video, Week 2 edition. And by the way, if you haven't hit subscribe, do it. We're now at 101,000 and counting. And if you hit that bell, you get instant alerts when the Fade the Public college football top 25 videos go live. You can be the first person to interact and take advantage of that actionable weekend info. Okay, I'm going to look at a game that's going to be in that top 25 video on WagerTalk TV this weekend, and that is Miami of Florida at Texas A&M. Now, my power ratings favor Texas A&M by 6. The current line is 6. So you would say on the surface, no value in this game. But I like Miami of Florida here as an underdog. You know, I mentioned earlier it's always a red flag to me when a favorite, when the public is backing an underdog. Well, another red flag to me when I'm analyzing college football is when a team cannot even score the point spread in the previous game. And that's what happened to Texas A&M. They're an 18-point home favorite. Not only did they lose outright as a 2.5 touchdown favorite, which isn't good to start with, but they didn't even score the spread. They only scored 14 points. And keep in mind, half of those was on a return touchdown. They only had one true offensive touchdown as an 18-point favorite against Appalachian State. They gave up over 181 rushing yards to the Mountaineers, and that's going to be a problem against a Miami of Florida team that's running the ball extremely well this year. They're averaging 241 rushing yards, 5.5 yards per carry. So I don't think A&M bounces back this week. You can also make an argument it's a little bit of a flat spot because they had national title hopes this year, and they probably knew they were going to lose a game at some point, but that was going to be maybe a tough SEC loss. They now have to run the table, basically. So I think this is a bad spot for A&M, underrated Miami team, and we're getting points on top of that. A live underdog, Miami of Florida on Saturday. That goes at 9 p.m. Eastern. That's a late game, so you can catch it on national TV. And don't forget, I'll have my complete top 25 preview, just like that game, on WagerTalk TV this weekend. And also don't forget, $199 gets you college and pro football combined for a full 30 days. I had a 5-0 NFL sweep on Sunday and Monday on a perfect 8-0 all sports run the last 4 days. Check it out right now, Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com.
Haynes King, Tyler Van Dyke. Drew knows exactly where we're heading in that one. Let's take a look one more time here, guys, with Drew Leggin, UTSA, and the points. Take the 12.5, beating up Big Brother there at Texas. Trig going off the grid here a little bit with UTEP. Does agree with Drew's play there with UTSA, but he's going to lay the 2.5 with the Miners. And Merrill says, take the points. Don't believe that somehow a bounce back is in the cards for Jimbo. Might be a little bit too late for Jimbo and A&M. Take the 6 points and make sure you visit WagerTalk.com right now, guys. You head over there. Drew, he told you, is locked, loaded, ready to rock and roll, as is Adam, Trigger, and Steve Merril here, guys. All three off to a tremendous start here in college football. NFL ready to go as well tonight. Drew's got a best bet up there. And while you're at WagerTalk.com, make sure to check out the free live odds page. Never be surprised by a line move here, guys. It's all about getting the best of the number, and that is some tremendous free information for you over at WagerTalk.com. All right, guys, we're ready to go. We got Thursday night football, and of course, we got a couple of games tomorrow in college as well, kicking off week 3. We'll be back again, breaking down 3 more games as we head into the weekend. But until then, on behalf of Drew, Adam, Trigger, Steve Merril, guys, we appreciate the time. Best of luck with all your plays here tonight. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. Good luck.
How many handicapping groups can say they were around before Twitter, MySpace, AOL, Sunday morning cable infomercials, beepers, and 1-800 numbers? In the 65th year of operation, the Gold Sheet team is better than ever. Including the NFL preseason, Gold Sheet's LTS selections are 21-6 to start the 2022 football season, including an 11-1 mark this past weekend. If you're ready to play side by side with the country's longest running sports betting newsletter, act now to take $200 off the Gold Sheet's NFL and college football combo. No coupon is needed to redeem this offer. Just go to the Gold Sheet's homepage at WagerTalk or Sports Memo and lock in one of the most respected handicapping groups of all time for one of the lowest prices ever offered. Get every top-rated college football play between now and the national championship game at regular price, and we'll add in their full season of NFL picks through the Super Bowl for just $100 more.